that all of our friends can see what we're doing. Okay, welcome to our second workflow workshop. Really excited to share with you guys what we're going to be doing. My prepared part of this is very simple. I'm going to show you how to create a little workflow. I'm going to show you how it's applied to a contact. And then I'm going to show you the table that many of us use when we start writing workflows. Once you get used to it, then you won't have to, even use the table, but it's a really, really good place to start. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to dive in, and then the rest of it is going to be your questions and finding out how we can help you create workflows to automate and streamline your business. So this is my um, move that over there. This is my dashboard for my corporate account. It doesn't show my personal stuff. Yes, I do have sales. This is
Kendall, we
what we
can't
use
see your
there.
screen.
Okay. So this is how you start writing a workflow. Across the top
Kendall,
here, we have, I'm sorry.
we can't see your screen.
Oh,
At
well,
least I can't.
that's just,
Yeah, I can.
here we go. How's that?
There we are. Yes, ma'am.
Yay! Thank you for saying that. Okay, so
Sure.
there's my screen. Across the top here, we have dashboard, calendar, workflows, and templates. Those are your four main areas of Realvolve. And we're going to get into the workflow part of it. And this is your workflow editor. Okay, so the way that you start writing a workflow is you actually hit this little plus sign, and that will allow you to either create a new workflow, import a workflow from a table. I've actually never done that, so I can't really help you with that, or add workflows from a library. So if you've never checked this out, if you've never gone here and looked at the workflow library, you might want to do that on your own time. There are a bunch of workflows that you can download. A lot of them are free, some of them are premium, which means there's a cost. But there's descriptions and lots of tidbits in there. And those of you who want to put your workflows up and maybe even sell them to interested parties, or you just want to share them with your team, your teammates, that's where you would do it in the workflow library. So today we're going to create a new workflow. I'm actually, to save time, I'm going to just fire up one of the ones that I've already done, but I wanted you to see where you can add a workflow. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how a basic workflow gets started. So I've clicked on basic workflow. This is one I've already written. And this is a follow-up workflow when you've created a lead and you want to make sure that you're going to follow up with that lead every single week, or at least pretty close to it. And that, I think, is a pretty universal one. So when you fire up a brand new one, you're going to give your title. You have to choose who you're going to use the workflow with: a contact, a property, or a transaction. You might wonder, why do I have to choose who to use with? That's confusing, and it's needlessly complicated. It's not. There are different fields and different merge fields that you can use with a contact versus what you can use with a property. That is something that you're either on the way to getting listed, or you actually have listed a property, or a transaction. And if we were to put all of the merge fields and all of the dates and all of the options into every single workflow, it would just be overwhelming. It's incredibly powerful as it is. So we're going to use the basic follow-up with a contact because that's a lead. So if you think about it, it's like, who am I going to be talking to? Who am I going to be using this with? If it's a human being, then you're going to use it with a contact. Okay. And the other part that I should tell you is if you start writing a workflow for a property, and you realize, oh, no, 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 I really want to use this with a person, you're not going to be able to transfer it over. You actually have to start over from scratch and rewrite it. So be careful. Okay, description if you need it, what you're using the workflow for. Alternative workflow. Let's say that you're going to be that you're using this as a contact with a follow-up one times a week, and at some point this is going to be a live buyer and you have a buyer workflow. You could choose that workflow as your alternate so that when you stop the follow-up one time a week, the buyer workflow would automatically be an option to launch. And then tags and groups, we're not going to get into in this basic workflow workshop. Okay, so when you have a workflow, the definition of a workflow is a bunch of activities that are strung together to create a desired result. In this particular case, we are stringing together a bunch of activities of what we do when we get a lead to follow up and convert them into a client. And our desired outcome is to convert them to a client or forget they exist. One or the other. Maybes kill you. So are you following up because they're still interested in working with you? Um, Great. This is what we're doing. Did they say, yes, I'm ready to buy and I want to work with you actively to buy a property? Great. We're going to convert them now into a client, not a lead. Or did they say, you know what? I don't think I'm going to be buying this year. Thanks for following up for me, but I'm not your candidate right now. Great. Let's get rid of them from our follow up. Okay. So that's our desired activity outcome. So in this particular case, we just have four simple activities. The first thing that we're going to do is the initial follow-up phone call. So the lead came into you from open house. They came to you because you were door knocking. They came to you because you were at some kind of social function, and your best friend said, "You know what? I think Johnny is ready to, buy a house." Okay, so your initial follow-up phone call, you're going to assign it to somebody. Now, many of you are going to be single agents. And so you're thinking, well, it's always going to be me, right? So here's a little drop down list. That's me. It's always going to be me. I'm going to assign it to me, right? When you're writing workflows, I want you to be thinking bigger picture. At some point, your business is probably not going to be just you. At some point, you may be adding a buyer's agent or an assistant or, maybe an inside salesperson, right? So I encourage you to write your workflows and apply them, assign activities to a role rather than a person. Okay, and we've got a lot of options in terms of people roles, and we are expanding that all the time. But in this particular case, it's a lead, and so it's probably going to be a buyer's agent. So let's just leave it at assigning it to a buyer's agent. With is if you have a specific group of people or specific contact. So, like for example, if you always work with John Smith as your lender, and you want to make sure that this letter goes out to your lender, you can specify a person, right? But most of the time, 99% of the time, it's going to be you're not specifying a specific person. Scheduling is super, super powerful because I always say that if your to-do list is populated with things that are not relevant to your day to day, you're going to start ignoring your dashboard. You're going to start ignoring your to-do list, right? So we want the to-dos to pop up on the day you actually need to take action. And this is the window that allows us to do that. So you can either pick a specific date. I rarely use that because these are templates. So I want them to be calculated on something. So computed date is important. You could have a number, so 5 days after, or you could have weeks, months, or years. Think of years in terms of your aftercare workflows. After you closed escrow, you want to keep in touch with them for years, right? Or it could be before or after a computed date. Okay, so in this particular date, we're saying that we're going to do the initial follow-up call. So it's going to be 0 days after the start date. There will be times when you want to calculate your activity based on the completion date. I want to call them 3 days before the close of escrow, which is your completion date, as an example. I want to call them 1 day before their home purchase anniversary. I want to call them 1 month after their home purchase anniversary, right? Last call. There's a bunch of different ones. It's very, very powerful. Right now, though, we're going to click Start Date. All right, tagging. If you're using a tagging system, that's where you put it in. Checklist. This is another really powerful feature, and we're going to show you when I apply the workflow why this is important. But I'm going to be making a phone call, and I'm going to want to know what is their home phone, with their home mobile number, because most of my people, they're using their cell as their primary call number. What are the notes, and when is the last time that I called them? We'll see how that's important in just a minute. So this is actually a call. So we're going to hit call so that we know what type of activity this is. And we're going to go and hit enter. Now, Interestingly enough, I want you to see this. Google sync this activity. Some of you like to have your activities in your calendar. You run your life off a calendar, you time block things, however you use your calendar. If you want something on your workflow to be entered on your Google Calendar, you're going to want to check this box, Google sync this activity. If you uncheck it, it will not show up on your calendar. Everybody has a different way of working, so you get to choose. Do you want it on a calendar or not? I do not like having my phone calls on the calendar, so I'm going to uncheck that and I'm going to hit update. Okay, so that's the initial follow-up phone call. The next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to want to tag this one. Well, I do. I like to know who in my database has what workflows enacted on them. So I'm going to add an action. Now, here's the difference. Activity is the global, it's the superset, it's the big thing. Okay, so activity is what do you need to do? An action is what tools do you need to complete the activity? Okay, so that's your vocabulary. Activity is what you're going to be doing. Action is the tools that you need to complete it. So in this particular case, my activity is add a tag, and my tool is to add or remove tags. So this is really key because you're going to start using tags to figure out who's doing what in your database. So in this particular case, I want to know who is using this workflow in my database. So I'm going to add the keep in touch workflow. When I'm done with this workflow, I'm going to remove that tag. Okay, so that's what the purpose of that is. We're going to hit save and then we're going to hit update. You can also, just so that you can see this, you can also do things like send a message. So I use this a lot with my actions. I'll have an activity to update the listing agent on the status of, my buyer's loan. Okay. As an example. So I'm going to send them an email, right? So we're going to send the message. We can send it manually with preview. If you're really ballsy, you can send it manually without a preview, or you can send it automatically, which means you don't get a chance to edit, or you could send it immediately. That is a very special one. You're not going to use that very often. Okay. So those are ways you can send emails. And you can also send it, I got to do this, send a message manually with preview. That's what I use 90% of the time. You can also just send how you're going to send the message. You can send an email message, or you could send a text message, or you could send a tweet. We can no longer send Facebook messages because Facebook won't play nice with us. Okay, so most of the time, I'm going to be sending an email, and then you can pick a template email that you've already pre-written. Okay, so that's getting a little bit more into the weeds, but that's showing it. So we're just going to add a tag on that particular one, hit update. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to call. So the first phone call is important because we have to establish what day we're making that phone call. And then we want to call one time a week in this particular workflow. You can write yours however you want to handle them. But we're going to write this one time a week. Let's check everybody can still hear me. Yes? Okay, good. But I can't hear anybody else. Is everybody there? Can somebody speak up? Oh, you
Yep,
are.
I'm
Yeah.
muted. I just
Okay,
muted.
great. Just
Yeah, we're here.
didn't hear any
Yep.
background, so I got concerned. Okay, so calling one time a week, we have the same checklist here. And again, I'll show you what this is going to look like when we apply it. But I want to make sure that I'm calling them every 7 days, not every 3, 5, or 6 days, but every 7 days is what I think is appropriate for this particular workflow. So I'll show you how that shows up. And then I don't want this thing to run for the rest of my life, right? Because at some point, I'm going to get tired of calling these people. Maybe they never pick up the phone. Maybe they pick up the phone, but then they talk on and on and on about their health problems, and they just don't seem like they're viable people to be wasting, I shouldn't say waste, to be spending my time on. But I'm going to need to decide what to do. So I thought that this particular workflow, I would be willing to call them 18 times in a row. That was just kind of an arbitrary, situation for me. You're going to decide what you want to do. 6 calls is all you're willing to do. 20 calls. Maybe you're the kind of real estate agent who's just so dedicated to your calling prospecting that you're going to call until they buy or die. that's up to you. But for me, 18 phone calls is what I was willing to do. So I have an activity of decide what to do in 18 phone calls, 18 dials. That's what I'm going to do. So at that point, after I've done it 18, I can choose, am I going to reactivate this particular workflow and then give them another 18, in which case we can do that. Or am I going to deactivate it, in which case I'm going to cancel the workflow? Okay, so those are my two actions. That's what I need in order to do that. And remember, if I deactivate it, they are no longer using the keep in touch 1x6 workflow. And so that workflow is now, that tag is now going to be removed automatically as soon as I deactivate. Okay, so that is the super simple workflow that I wanted to show you how to write. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to activate this workflow. All right, so now we're back on my dashboard and I'm going to create a new lead, right? So many times you're going to be doing this manually. Sometimes you're going to have it in there automatically. So we're going to add a new lead called John Buyer. And John Buyer, what we have is his phone number, 818-123-1234. And we have his home website address. Oops, put it in the wrong place. Home mobile is 123-1234, and the home email address is john@buyer.com. I wonder if there's a web address for that. There probably is. Oops, that's john@buyer.com. Okay, so we're going to get these two pieces of information about this one in his contact information, and now we're going to switch over to the radar. And this is where we start the workflow. So we're going to hit that blue button and we're going to choose the workflow follow up one time a week. All right. When we do that, it is with John Buyer. So we're going to hit next. And these are all of the activities included in this workflow. For some of your more complicated workflows, you may want to not enact one of those activities. And you can actually do that here at the start of the workflow. But this is a simple one. There's only 4 on there. So we're just going to go ahead and make all of them active. The buyer's agent. So here is where you can choose the role with buyer's agent. You can choose who in your business you want to apply this to. I have several buyer's agents, so I could apply it to anybody. But right now, we're just going to apply it to me. Hit next. And now we have some of the dates that are attached to these activities. Sometimes at the point that you start a workflow that one of the dates needs to be adjusted. But in this particular case, everything looks exactly the way it needs to be. So I'm going to hit done. All right, so it's applying the workflow to John Buyer. And you can look at the activities that need to be done in one of two places. You could be on John Buyer's contact record, and you could click the activity record. Oops. And here we have incomplete or completed. So on incomplete, we can see all 4 of activities that have now been applied. But quite frankly, you're not going to remember to go to John Buyer's record, right? You're going to be in your dashboard. So you're going to wake up in the morning, you're going to fire up Realvolve, and you should do that every morning, even before you do your email. You want to know, what do you have scheduled for today? So here we have my dashboard, and we have the activities that were just created, and they are due today, so that's why they're in red. So you can always pay attention to what's urgent and needs to be done right now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the tag to John Buyer. So I hit this little box here to check it off, and it says, oh, you have an action that you need to do in order to complete this activity, and that's add the workflow tag, and we're going to hit run. So now when we go back to John Buyer's record in just a second, you will see that the tag has now been added to him. Now we need to make our initial phone call. So we're going to hit this. And remember, you're in dashboards. First thing you're doing in the morning, you're going to hit that one and you're going to go, oh, okay. So I have John Buyer's phone number. Isn't that great? So I'm going to call him, and now I'm going to talk to John Buyer, and I'm going to find out, not pre-approved, call me next week. Okay, so I put that into the notes. And I want to find out, I want to record when was the day I called, which is today. So we're going to go ahead and hit today, and we're going to save and close. So we've now completed that action. Okay, let's go back to John Buyer's record. John Buyer. And we're going to search just by name and hit enter. And John Byer's record is right there. Okay, so we're going to click on John Byer. Now let's take a look at his radar. On his radar is we've already had the workflow tag applied, and the notes that I typed in right when I was on my dashboard is right there. So this means you could have 18 phone calls that you need to do. You can power through these 18 phone calls, dialing, talking, taking notes, and then moving on to the next. And everything is going to show up on your client's record right there. So it's a huge time saver. It makes you a lot more efficient. Now, let's take a look at our activities. So John, we called him on the 19th. Remember, we want to call every 7 days. So now Realvolve knows when the last phone call was, and it's recorded that, and it scheduled me to make a phone call to John Byer on May 26th, which happens to be 7 days from today. So on May 26th, we're going to check that little box. And there it is, home mobile, a place to do the notes, and a place where the last call date is. So you're going to want to update that. And you're going to check this, and you're going to go into this, and you're going to say, okay, I called on the 26th. So cool. Calling that, save and close. And now Realvolve is going to generate a new activity for 7 days from that day. Now you're thinking, well, what's the point of that? Obviously, it is going to be every 7 days because that's what we wanted. Well, what happens if on the 26th, when I'm supposed to make a phone call, what happens on the 26th and all of my escrows are blown up and I don't have time to make my prospecting phone calls? I try to be on top and intentional, but shit happens. So I don't call on the 26th. I don't even call on the 27th. In fact, I don't get around to it until the 29th because that escrow problem was so hairy. So I call on the 29th and I check this all off and I tell Realvolve the last time I called them was not on the 26th, was actually on the 29th. Realvolve will understand this and it will generate a to-do to call John Byer, not 7 days from the 26th. It will do 7 days from the day I actually called on the 30th. So I will always be at the proper interval to calling John Byer and keeping in touch with them. So that's a really important thing that keeps us on point and relevant to the buyer and consistent in their eyes. Okay. So that's applying the workflow. I've got one more thing that I want to show you, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So I hope you came armed with questions like I asked you. So this is an example of a workflow table. And in your workflow book, which you can download from the help section on Realvolve, it shows you a copy of this table. And it's a very, very simple and visual way to take your linear to-do list, if you have one, and many of you do, and translate it into a Realvolve workflow. So what we have is, what's the type of the to-do? What is the title of the activity? Who's going to do the activity? And how many days, weeks, months, or years before or after a trigger date do you need to do this activity? All right, so this is what the table looks like for following up with a lead, the one that I just showed you. We're making a call. It is a first phone call. I'm the one who's going to do it. When I wrote this workflow, there was just me. And I'm going to do it 0 days after the start date. And you can see where it goes: tag, follow up, call, follow up. So this can be applied to a lot of different examples. Like, for example, this is the table for listing maintenance. We have to do, we've got to record the showings. It's my assistant, and they're going to start doing it 0 days before the start date. We've got an email that goes out about the social media post that we just did for the listing, and the assistant is going to do it 0 days before the start date. Okay, so it can go on and on and on. Here's another table that I wrote for when I'm running an escrow for a seller. At the time, I didn't understand roles. I was actually assigning it to people. And I understood the idea of emails and calls and who was going to do it. And, at the time, I didn't understand how to calculate things other than start dates and close dates. And then I started getting a little bit more sophisticated. I went, oh, I could time things off of an inspection date to confirm the property is ready for inspection, or inspection contingency date. So as you start to learn the system, you're going to learn how many trigger dates are available. And I would encourage you to take a look at one of the documents that we use frequently. Gloria is so funny. Gloria Singer, you see her on the community all the time. She's always saying, I have this piece of paper on my desk as I'm writing the workflows. I don't like paper, so I just have it on Realvolve. You can see I have a shortcut to it, so I can get to it anytime I want to. And this just tells you all the power that you can use when you're writing templates or workflows. And you start using this and you're going to start feeling really, really powerful. So that's kind of the tutorial thing that I used. Now I kind of want to open it up for questions. So let's see what we've got. John Littlefield, how did you get into the current screen you're showing? John, what screen were you talking about? Turn on your mic. Oh, your mic's on.
Kendall, I think he was talking about when you went into Evernote.
Oh, okay. Well, so I'm on a Mac, and I have various. Evernote is like the dashboard of my life. Between Realvolve and Evernote, I really don't have anything else, and so I'm just flipping between the apps. That's all. Okay. Um, let's see, John. That looks like Evernote. Yeah. So it's not Realvolve. So Evernote is where I take all of my random notes. I clip things from the internet. I write all my blog posts in Evernote. I use it for just about everything that pertains to collecting information that's not a data field. Okay. Rachel, where is that tutorial? What tutorial are you talking about, darling? Rachel, do you have your mic on? Did we lose you? Okay. All right. So, who is struggling with what in terms of creating workflows for themselves? Anybody?
Hi. Yes, Kendall, it's Janine. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I have a question regarding the tags.
Okay.
I'm putting together a 33 touch,
Uh-huh.
and I want to be able to tag that. Once I do the 33 touch, like I'm going to name it something like 33 touch with the current date so I know I'm using it this year. When I go in to apply it, and I pick a contact and I say, okay, choose the 33 touch with this date.
Right.
Should I just tag it right then and there when I'm in the contact, add a tag that
Yeah.
says that?
Yes.
Can I
So
do that? Or
you can
the way
do
you did it in,
so you can use it
in,
one of two ways. You can either use it
okay,
as an individual client. So let's just say that your workflow is 33 touch and you just want that to be your universal template, right?
right, yeah,
When you apply that to John Buyer and you start your
right,
workflow, and you choose 33 touch, right?
right,
That goes in there, and on the tag, you can just click in here and you can,
right,
I don't have a 33 touch, so you can say
right,
33
mm-hmm,
touch, 516. Okay, let's just say you did
right,
that. And then you hit return or I'm sorry, you hit tab, and now we've attached the tag to John Buyer, but you've also created a new tag.
right. So
Okay.
that anybody, like everybody that I put on there, I can pull up by the tag
Uh-huh.
and say, okay, all these people are on this 33 touch.
Yes. And you can do it
Like,
by the right. You can do it by the date. Now you may not want to use a tag with a date on it because then you're going to wind up with 10,000 tags. Okay.
right.
So what you
But I
might
need
want to
to know, like, this year's 33 touch and next year. Like, how do I decipher that?
right. So if you want to do it by year, that's probably a little bit easier. You could just say 33 touch, 2016. And that
Why
way,
would you want to do it by year? That's my question for her.
yeah, why would you want to do that by
Janine,
year?
because you're probably just doing the 33 touch. Maybe you develop a new 33 touch
Yes, that's what I mean. For
for
next
next
year,
year.
we'll develop a new one, right, with current information.
Yeah, I mean that could be a good reason. At some point, and we don't have it yet. At some point, Mark Step is going to develop our ability to apply workflows to a batch of people rather than one by one. And so,
Right,
so you've labeled everybody 33 touch. You could then pull all of those people, and then you could apply this new, workflow that you've done. You could apply that to them in en masse,
right.
as you will.
Gotcha.
And I would
That's
probably
what,
do it more. I would probably do a more broad thing of if you're going to do 33 touch, it's just going to be 33 touches throughout it, and just say your email comes up, and so when you're doing, say, March's email or your March's 33 touch, you know that you know your material that goes in there, rather than creating each
Well,
33 touch every year.
I mean, I think what's really, really great is that both of you are right, and Janine can write it her way so she can update it once a year, and you can do it in a more global sense. I have a tendency to do more global things, so that's probably closer to how I work, but I can certainly see how
Mhm.
Janine's way would be valuable, especially the way she works.
Sure.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yes. I'm just doing it the simple way that I know.
Absolutely.
My
And we all think in different ways, and we all have different
Right.
ways of organizing our activities, our calendar, and our business. And so,
Hmm.
and that is the primary reason that we chose not to create Realvolve with these channels that everybody has to be in. What we're doing is a lot harder, but it is a lot more valuable to people in the long run. Yeah.
Right. It
Um,
has no limits, which is
right,
awesome.
exactly. Exactly. Nikki says, when I have a template within an activity and I have a checklist, I must check everything off on the checklist before I can run the email template. Is there another way to do this? Do I need to create an email activity just for the email? Okay. Well, yeah, that's one way of doing it, Nikki. I know you got a wicked cough, so I'm going to try to answer this one. So, if you've created an activity where you wouldn't always check everything off in order to run the email, then
Hmm.
creating a separate activity for the email is the best way to go.
Okay.
There's a lot of situations, especially if you've got an activity that your staff is going to be checking off, not you, and you want quality control. You want to make sure that X, Y, and Z is completed before the email goes out. The activity, the way I'm thinking of it, is a better way of going. The other way of doing it is that you can actually have a checklist. And I don't know if you know this, but let me see if I can do this real quick. Activities. Hello. Come on, let me go. All right, so let's use this one. It's now June 2nd. You can actually double click an activity. Wait. mm, Yeah. So when you double click an activity on a checklist, it actually cancels it out. And RealVolve will see
I
that as completed.
I actually tried to do it that way, but then so you have to either check all of the boxes off
Hmm.
or you have to cross them off
Yeah.
for the template to actually show that you're going to run it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you run it, it checks the entire activity off that the activity is complete. But I
Right.
didn't complete everything in the activity. So I was just wondering, do I have to
Oh,
take
I get it.
everything that comes after the email needs to
Yes.
be on a new activity
Yes,
then?
it does. Yeah, if this is
Okay.
an email that will get sent regardless of whether or not the checklist is completed or deleted,
Hmm.
yeah, you have to do it on a separate one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. I had more questions. Lost it. Let's see. How on showing Evernote. I have Evernote as well. How did you get these tables to integrate from Realvolve to Evernote? Simple answer. They're not integrated. It's just, it would be the same if I had a piece of paper and I scribbled this on a piece of paper. So, John, what I did is I created this table, and I don't know if you know how to create tables in Evernote. But if you were to do a new thing and I were to go here, and this is the icon to create tables, then you just basically create the number of columns. I think it's five, and then you go down as many rows as you want, right? And then it inserts the table. And I mean, it's nothing more complicated than that. So this is what it looked like when I was done. I resized him, I filled him out. I did this because I just wanted to have access to it whenever I wanted access to it. That's why it's not on a piece of paper. And then once I did that, I looked at this and I used this as my reference. And I said, okay, the first thing that I need to do on listing maintenance when I create a workflow is I've got a to do, I've got showings. And I literally went back and forth and said, okay, I need to do this next. Okay, I got to write it over here. I need to do this next. Okay, I need to write it over there. I mean, it's just super, super low tech. Did that answer your question, John? Okay, he's muted. I hope that answered it. John, if you can still hear us and that didn't, just let me know. Okie dokie. Let's see. Rachel, if we slide dial a group of contacts, is there a way to note that in each one's file without having to do one separately? Slide dial a group of contacts. I don't even know how to do that, Rachel. You're ahead of me. I mean, I know what slide dial is, but are you bunch texting people? What are you doing, Rachel? And I think we lost her again. Okay, hopefully she'll come back and answer that question.
I
Uh,
think you can, if you have the, if you pay for a slide dial, you can actually create like a sort of a generic voicemail,
uh-huh.
and it will send it to all the contacts on a list
Huh.
through slide dial.
Okay.
So like you create it one.
Yeah. Go ahead. Okay, I lost everybody now. Gonna move on. If somebody comes back with that, it'll be much appreciated. Nikki, when a buyer transaction closes, is there a way to have the home anniversary set up automatically? Should I set that up with a tag or an action? Yeah, buyer transaction closing.
It's like a BCC email,
Oh,
except it's
there
a
you go.
voicemail.
There you are. BCC. Okay. If it's a BCC email, then yes, it's going to show up on the radar on every single person that received that email. Okay. So, Rachel, hope that answered your question. Um, Going back to the home anniversary setup automatically. Okay. I think I know how to do that. So, let's see if I can show you how. So, I'm just going to use this as my little thing. Add another activity. Oh, wait, no, I have to do that to I take that back. So it'd have to be in something that's to an escrow. So that's why it's important that you use with the right person. So this would be used with a transaction. So let's add an activity to the workflow. And it's going to be add home anniversary. And we're going to do when, let's just say 0 days from the close date, right? Because that's when we know it's going to happen. Closing date. So it's going to be 0 days after closing date. And we're going to do, and I hope this works, home anniversary. Right. Transaction. Nope, not going to do it. Maybe it's with the contact because I know we have that field there.
Kendall, I did find when you're in transaction and you're putting in the checklist, it doesn't let you put them in like that unless you're on a contact. When you're on the transaction side,
Yeah.
it won't let me do like the double bars and where you can add the notes. I haven't been able to figure that out.
Yeah, and I think home anniversary is something that's on the contact record, not on the transaction record. So that's something that I actually am going to put up to Mark because that's a really great idea that it gets.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, that would be. Right now, we don't have any connectivity from transaction to contact and back over again. Those are completely separate information silos, if you will. We've talked as a team about creating some ways to have some interactivity, and that would be a really good one.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Oh, you're totally welcome. That was a great question. Janine, can you talk about modifying a workflow once contacts are on it? Oh, sore spot. Yeah, we actually can't do it. So right
Right.
now, Janine, the only way that you can modify, so let's just say that you made some just really kick-ass modifications to a workflow and you're like all excited about it and you want to apply that to everybody that is currently running that workflow. The only way currently to do that is to go to that record, delete the rest
Right.
of that workflow, reapply the new workflow, and then uncheck all the activities that have already happened for that contact. What a pain in the patoozie. But I can tell you,
Right.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So,
It's coming, right?
yeah, we're still a work in progress. The good news is
Right.
that the engineer team has to not only hear from you, not has to, they actually love hearing from you guys. They love it when you say things like this because none of
Right.
my engineers are real estate agents. They have never
Mhm.
sold a house. right?
Gotcha. Right.
Right. So they depend on your comments in the Realvolve community. And they frankly depend on me to sit there and go, guys, seriously, I know you saw this in the community. I don't know if you understand exactly what a pain and patoozy this is. So that helps
Right.
them to set their agenda because they can't do everything at once. That's just a human nature. They have to prioritize this over that. And this being able to modify a workflow on the fly, a live link between writing the workflow and having it flow into it is pretty high on their development list, but it's actually a pretty difficult thing to do. From an engineering point of view, it's super complicated. So I don't know how quickly that will happen, but I do know that they take that very seriously.
Okay. And with regard to that, once I do this, like my 33 touch is my baby now. Once I do that workflow, if I modify the template in it, does that change? Or
Yes.
like, say
Yes.
I have the same template,
Yes.
but I'm just changing the wording.
Yes, the template is a live link. Okay.
So the workflow would actually be updated with the new template as long as it was remain the same title, subject, everything, just the content was different.
Not only that, but let's say you applied that to John Smith 2 weeks ago, and then you
Right.
modified your template. John Smith will get
Right.
the new letter, not the old letter.
Right. Okay. So that's a good thing because I'm going to write a letter now that for November, the forward thinking, and then I may want to change it in October before John Smith gets it. So if I change the template, the new one will apply.
Yep.
Okay. As long as I don't change the workflow at all.
Correct. Which is actually kind of I don't know if that's a good way because it could be very confusing, but it is a workable way to get your monthly letter out there to the people who are receiving your 33 touch.
Right, because we have a newsletter quarterly that we want to put in there, but obviously the news is going to change. But if I have like March newsletter listed, then I can just go in before it went out to everybody, update it, and that they will get the current.
Yeah, I mean, I would do it so that you've got your 33 touch workflow, and in the workflow, it's send monthly letter, and the action has an activity sending the template monthly newsletter or quarterly newsletter, right? And then
right, like I'm going to link it to a template that says in March. I'm going to link the template's going to say March newsletter.
Can you hang on a second?
And it'll be in there.
Can you hang on a second? Right, just
sure.
hold on to your thought for just a second. You've got a activity that says send quarterly newsletter, and you got an action. Let me show it to you on my screen. So let's just say this is send quarter newsletter. Okay.
Correct.
All right, and then your action is going to be send newsletter. All right. And you're going to send that via email manually with preview. And then you're going to choose to send that as an email message. And on here, let's just pretend that this template says quarterly newsletter. All right.
Correct.
Let's just assume that. Now let's go over to templates. And you've got a template, new template, author new template. And this is your quarterly newsletter. Okay, let's just say, and you're applying this to a contact, and you have your newsletter, thing, whatever you put here. This could say March newsletter if you wanted to, doesn't matter. Right. And you do all this stuff in here, right? So you send, that goes out in March. Whoever has this workflow, they're going to get this quarterly newsletter. But what it says will depend on what you've put into this template. So you can change this template every quarter, and you don't have to touch the contact or the workflow at all.
Perfect. Yes, that's what I was hoping.
Okay. So that's
exactly. That's a good workaround. Absolutely.
I think that's a really, really good way of handling what you're talking about.
Perfect. Yes, right. That was a big concern. Thank you, Kendyl.
I'm feeling smart now. Woo-hoo. Okay.
I might.
Yeah, well, some days I feel smart and other days, oof, not so much. Nikki, if an activity falls on a weekend, is there a way to set it to show either Friday or Monday? Yes, it kind of depends on how you set up the activity. So let's go back to our workflow, and let's go back to our one time, just because so the same one. All right, so this is our one time, and you want it. So let's say that we only want to call one time a week, and we only want it to be on Monday. So if you're going to do it the way I have it, Nikki, where it's every 7 days based on the last day, if you're only
Mhm.
making phone calls on weekdays, you're going to be fine, right? But let's just say it's
Right, this is for more like when an activity, like say I need to send an email out to a client or I need to check on the home inspection and say that activity is 7 days after the activity start date and that actually ends up on a Saturday. Well, I really need to do that on a Friday or maybe I can wait until the Monday. So it's one of those like I
yeah.
know when we used a different CRM, I was able to do it to where it falls on either the Friday or the Monday. It would let you choose that, and I don't know if there's that option on here.
There isn't.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do a specific date. You can control Monday or Friday when it's a repeating activity, but on a one up, it's a calculated date, and not a calculated date plus Monday or Friday.
Okay, no worries.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Do we have any other questions? Anybody want to speak up? I finished all the questions on our chat.
I'll speak up. Can you hear me now? This is Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello. Okay, I dialed in finally on my phone.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to be totally off the wall here.
I
I've
love
got
off the
a
wall.
bu-
You're my people.
I've got a bunch of real estate agents and vendors in my database,
Uh-huh.
which is in Google.
Okay.
And of course, I sync Google over to Realvolve.
Sure.
So I've got all these hundreds extra that are not contacts.
Okay.
What can I do?
Okay.
It's showing that I've got like 900 contacts. Well, yeah, I do, but I don't want all them involved in the
Right.
day-to-day real estate activity.
Right. Well, I'm going to give you two answers, Rachel. One,
Okay.
you might not like, but it actually will help you later on down the road. I have all of my vendors in Realvolve. And the reason I have them in there is that when I'm doing a transaction, I love dragging and dropping my escrow, my title, my painter, my photographer, my stager. I do all of that and they're in Realvolve. I just drag them on over and I make them a party to my transaction. That way
Okay.
I know what escrow officer was attached to what transaction. I know
Yeah.
who my photographer shot, right? So that's something that I might want to encourage you to think a little outside the box even further, and maybe keep your vendors in there because there's no harm in having 900 people in your Realvolve account. It doesn't flub anything up as long as you're using workflows, tags, priorities. Okay. All right. So
Okay.
that's how I look at it. Now, to answer your question, yes, you can do that. Um, and I'm not the expert on Google Sync, so I'm going to flub around here a little bit. When we do our Google Sync, it takes, hang on a quick second, it brings over, oh, I don't have a connection on this one. So you guys, it will bring over the ones that are tagged in your Google account as dag nabbit, my contacts, I believe. It only brings
Yeah.
over
Yes, my contacts.
yeah, it only brings over the ones that are tagged in your Google account as my contacts. So the way
Which
you
is the
Which all of
default
mine
tag.
are.
I'm sorry?
That's the
Well,
default
all
tag
of
on Gmail.
Right. So what you do is you go through on your vendors and whatnot and you uncheck the my contact.
them.
Okay. So
Okay.
that's how you
So
can,
you would have them. You'd still have them in Google, but you would not have with all real estate agents.
that's
You wouldn't
correct.
have them over in Realvolve.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's a workaround. That'll work.
Yep. Yep. That's
Or
the
does,
good news about a powerful system. There's usually ways to work around it, but you
yeah.
have to know how. Okay. All right. Best
Well,
way.
I was wondering,
Rachel,
Go ahead.
I was wondering if there was any way that they could be tagged or noted somehow, like you've got A, B, C, and D.
Yes.
If there was some way, to color code them, that like all the agents,
Yep.
but
You can
there's
use
not.
your A, B, C, D in that manner if you want to. Absolutely. I think it's better to do it with tags. So for me, let me go back to my dashboard here. For me, hang on a second. All of my vendors, okay, that's right, are tagged as vendors, right? So really they are. I just can't spell.
Right now you have nothing going on.
Well, actually, this is my corporate account, not my personal Realvolve account. So I have all of my vendors, my painters, my stagers, plumbers. Every one of them is tagged vendor, and then they're tagged with what
Okay.
kind of vendor they are, painter or stager, so that I can pull it up and be good. So, what have I got in here anyway? Dang nabbit. Yeah, I think yeah. So
you're probably also dealing with an issue that I dealt with, and Mark actually put a good kind of explanation in the Facebook group on how to, because Google is very aggressive in capturing contacts on your phone and such like that. So you might
Yep.
search the Realvolve Facebook.
oh, you dropped out, and you're about to say
Yeah.
something really good.
I know it. Yeah,
I
he
know,
was.
right? He was about to tell us the secret of the universe and everything.
And
Oh,
Google
there
is
you
I
are.
very
know.
aggressive in capturing people.
Yeah. So we lost you when you said Google is aggressive in capturing people, and you're going to tell us something really good.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Google's very aggressive in capturing all contacts that kind of come into your phone, and sometimes you might notice you have 2 or 3 contacts
Yeah.
for the same person. And Realvolve is just kind of imaging that. So if you look in the Facebook group for my name or Google Contact or Google Sync, you'll see Mark put a pretty good explanation on that and how to handle it, because I was having that
Oh,
same
good.
problem.
Good.
Okay.
That's in the Facebook group.
Well, I'll go and do that.
That's in,
Because it's all about kind of tagging it, tagging items, even in your either when a new contact gets created, you can they call it I guess groups. It's not the circles, but I think it's groups. And
Yeah.
on your phone, you'll
yeah.
see where it kind of there's a bunch of checkboxes that you can make, and that's how you can sort your contacts. I wouldn't do it like Kendall said. I wouldn't necessarily do it with the A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, I
Just have
don't.
them
Yeah.
unlabeled.
Yeah. Okay, I got a couple more questions here. It's going to power through them so we can get to it. Nikki, what is the best way to separate vendors, clients, and friends? For me, we don't have groups, we have tags. So I use tags aggressively to mix and match people in all kinds of different groups. So that's the great thing about tags. You can have a client who's got 18 different tags if you want to, whereas groups, you have a tendency to have to be one group or another. So tags are more powerful that way. Again, let's see. When a lead comes into Realvolve, can I set up a workflow to start automatically or do we need to set up manually? It depends on how the lead is getting into your Realvolve. I use Zapier to
That's what
summon
we
them.
use.
You do too? Okay, great. So
Yeah.
when you set up Zapier, you have the option to launch a workflow directly from the Zap. So it sucks it out from your email and creates a new contact on Realvolve. You can tag it. You can assign the record owner, and you can also assign a workflow all within one Zap. Super powerful and super cool, actually. It's like magic.
Okay.
Yeah,
How?
you need to have a class on Zapier.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you do all that?
it's fun. The reason we aren't doing a class on Zapier is that we are hoping that to have something called an API up and running in the not too distant future. Once we have that API, Zapiers will no longer be that necessary. And that's why we haven't done it. Because Zapiers are they're fun, but they're complicated. So we're
Yeah.
trying to avoid the necessity of your average Realvolve user even doing the Zape. That's what we're trying to avoid. Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. Is there any other last minute questions? We got 2 minutes. Nope. Well, I am super excited that you guys were able to attend. If you want to pick up something, then you will be putting the recording up probably late today or tomorrow, and we'll be continuing to have these workflows. Try to let other people have a turn before you come back in, but I'm going to be doing these every other week for quite some time to come. So awesome meeting you guys. Look forward to seeing you in real life someday. Okay, go forth and be awesome. Bye.